On the news tonight, Lagos files murder charge against ASP Vandi over death of Lagos lawyer Bolanle Rahim. Civil society organizations knock lawmakers over 30.1 billion naira National Assembly budget. And reps flag off probe on alleged loss of $2.4 billion crude oil revenue. Many thanks for joining us on News Now. I am Folashade Ogurinde. The Lagos State Attorney General Muyosore Onigbanjo has filed a one-count charge of unlawful killing against Drambi Vandi, an assistant superintendent of police, for the murder of a Lagos lawyer, Bolanle Rahim. During the court proceeding, Onigbanjo sought a remand order for the defendant. In line with Section 246 of the Administration Criminal Justice Law of Lagos 2015, the Attorney General argued that the remand order will give police the opportunity to conclude its investigation on the matter. The Chief Magistrate of the Yaba Magistrate Court, Adiola Olatunbosun, granted the application and ordered that the case file be duplicated and sent to Babajide Martins, Director of Public Prosecution in Lagos, for legal advice. The case was thereafter adjourned to January 30, 2023. Rahim was on Sunday shot dead when she was returning home from a Christmas outing with her family at the Ajah axis of Lagos. The federal government says its investment and infrastructure will aid the growth of businesses in the country. The Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, made this known during an inspection of ongoing facilities within the Apapa-Oshodi Ojota-Oroshoki Expressway. The minister explained that the Apapa-Oroshoki Expressway is a major infrastructure asset for import and export business as it connects to the largest and the busiest seaport in the country, the Tinkan Island and the Apapa Port.
Infrastructure is the key that unleashes trading and productivity, which is so strong on. But without infrastructure, you can't trade and you can't produce. So let's just be clear about that. The Apapa-Oroshoki Expressway is a major infrastructure asset for import and export business because it connects to the largest and the busiest in the country, the Tinkan Island and the Apapa Port. By 2015, people will remember how difficult, how chaotic it was, how painful it was in this state, in this axis, and how the pain translated to other parts of the state. Clearly, without a shred of doubt, although the work is not finished, the difference is clear. There has been very, very measurable and quantifiable progress. There are people from different parts of the country who have turned this land and our port area into a very disorganized environment. I have news for them. It is going to stop. We're coming out of them, tongs and hammers, and we're ready for all the arguments that can be wicked up, including ethnic and religious. But this is lawlessness, and we must stop it. And it is a return to law and order. And we don't care where you come from. Once you obey the law, you are my Nigerian brother and you are my Nigerian sister. If you don't, we will come after you, tongs and hammers.
Some civil society organizations have condemned the budgetary allocations of 30.1 billion naira for severance packages and the inauguration of the 10th Assembly. The National Assembly had on Wednesday increased and passed the 2023 budget proposal to 21.82 trillion naira against the 20.5 trillion naira proposed by President Muhammadu Buhari in October. The new figure approved for the National Assembly as against the proposed 169 billion naira by the President reveals a surge of 59.1 billion naira in the lawmakers' allocation. The 2023 budget proposal of 20.5 trillion naira presented by President Muhammadu Buhari to the Parliament has a deficit of 10.782 trillion naira, which should be funded by foreign loans. Well, for more insight into this development, the Executive Director of the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, Awal Rasmanjani, joins me now. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, is there any justification for an increase in budgetary allocation, especially at a time when Nigeria is struggling with rising public debt and dwindling revenue?
Thank you very much. There is no any right-thinking patriotic Nigerian that will endorse or support this outrageous and reckless allocation to self, because members of the National Assembly are being paid monthly. They earn salaries, they earn allowances, they earn other privileges of government. And therefore, it is absolutely unfair to the nation, to the economy, to the people of Nigeria, where poverty is in the increase, where inequality is in the increase, where Nigeria has to go and borrow money to now be given this kind of package that absolutely is not in any way justifiable. I think, members of the National Assembly need to understand that if they want to correct certain, anomalies or certain, things that are going wrong from the executive, they themselves, they need to lead by example. If the executive is reckless and is spending public taxpayers' money, without caution, without reflecting the fact that Nigeria economy is in serious quagmire, they should not join hands to do that, because they are elected to serve the nation, to serve the people, to represent the people, and they cannot be allocating this huge unjustifiable amount of money to themselves. Already Nigerians are not happy with the way and manner in which National Assembly members are parting away with huge part salary, a situation whereby a professor who spent 30 years in the university, his earning is not, more than, it's not even up to 500,000 naira per month. And yet somebody who is a legislator will have a minimum takeoff in a month of at least 7 million, in the case of Senate, 11 million respectively, as some people are even calling 13 million for the Senate. So I think it is absolutely unfair when we look at the economic situation, when we look at what they are going to allocate to themselves, we will have to go and borrow to give this bonanza to them. At the same time, Nigerians are languishing in absolute and abject poverty. 30,000 minimum wage is difficult to be paid in this country, but lawmakers are earning this. Some government official in the executive and the appointee of the president are earning equally, unreasonable and unjustifiable amount of money. Now, these lawmakers, some of them, they are not first timer, they are not second timer. Some of them, they have been, coming to assembly since 1999. So every
now,
year,
which is of course a very valid point.
Like
I'm sorry to cut you short here, but you've mentioned that the executive arm of government and the legislative arm of government are both culpable of this situation. But what mechanisms are in place to ensure that situations like this are basically forestalled? If in this situation, you've said the executive and the legislative arm of government should be held accountable for situations like this.
Yeah, it just shows you that both the executive and the legislature, they are partners in exploiting Nigerian, resources, because if they are conscious about the fact that the country is not even able to meet its own, requirement in terms of functional healthcare system, functional educational system, provision of water and sanitation in the country, they will not be making this reckless allocation to themselves when every month they are also parting away with so much privileges, so much gains and benefits. And some of them, they are actually, in the case of some, senators, some of them, they serve as governors in their state for 8 years. They are still collecting those, pension and gratuity in their state. And then the assembly, they are equally collecting. The current Senate president has been in the assembly since 1999. So every 4 years, he goes with, this severe package. I think it is important we sit down to have a legal framework about this severe, package, because you cannot be collecting allowances, salaries that is, very huge, and then even input or contribution to the nation development is not even commensurable to what you are even taking.
So these
At the same time,
lawmakers that would need to implement the changes in the Nigerian constitution.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
I said it's still the legislative arm of government that will need to, implement these changes in the constitution. So what else? How do we go on from there?
So it is expected that as a patriotic, responsible lawmakers and executive, as they are supposed to, they should have come together to say, look, we cannot afford the luxury of reckless spending in this country. We are already benefiting as public officials. So let us minimize so that we reduce the cost of governance in this country. But this administration, the expectation that many Nigerians have when they came into power, that they are going to be, less reckless spenders. They have proven Nigerians wrong, and the international community that actually, indeed, there's no difference between the previous ones and this one. In fact, in the past, the amounts budgeted for this severe package, severance package, is not as big as even what we have. Even Saraki administration, the ex-assembly, they did not spend 30 billion. They spent less than that. And this will keep on increasing, and we expected that Muhammadu Buhari hopefully will have used his own personality of someone who claimed not to be, supporting waste and injustice to actually, encourage National Assembly and the executive to stop this, because they do this at the ministry level. All the ministers,
indeed, our Rafsanjani, and to think that we have, a situation of increasing debt burden on Nigeria, but it's still a topic for more discussion. Our Rafsanjani, the Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, thank you very much for your time and your contribution on News Now. The presidency has assured that the state-of-the-art presidential clinic situated within the State House would be inaugurated before the end of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration in May 2023. This was revealed by the Permanent Secretary, State House, Tijani Umar, who led President Buhari's personal physician, Shuaib Rafin Dadi, and other officials during a pre-handing over inspection of the multi-billion naira 13-bed VIP wing of the State House Clinic. According to the Permanent Secretary, the hospital will offer Medicare to the country's president, vice president, and their families, as well as other very important government officials. He also expressed satisfaction with the pace of work and the quality of equipment already fitted in the 5-star facility ahead of the official handover.
There is a lot of unpacking of equipment. There is a lot of installation of equipment going on. And I would want to say that this has provided us an opportunity to assess what has been achieved to date. This is also going to give us an excellent opportunity to make observations to the contractors. Whatever we have seen, we would review and would get back to them. Now, let me just make a note. This is not a luxury hotel. This is the presidential hospital. It is not actually only the presidential wing. This is a complete presidential hospital, as you all have seen.
This project is actually quite belated, but as they say, it's better late than never. We've seen that this is a facility, world-class, state-of-the-art, with a lot of equipment and capability to carry out any procedure you can imagine. The previous one has been a little bit remote from the seat of power. This one is situated within the seat of power, within the villa. And emergencies come at any point in time. It can happen in the dead of the night. So the fact that this one is situated right here says a lot.
The House of Representatives has flagged off the investigative hearing into the alleged loss of over $2.4 billion revenue accrued from illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil export in 2015, as well as crude oil export from 2014 till date. Speaking at the inauguration of the investigative hearing in Abuja, Mark Bila, chairman of the ad hoc committee investigating the alleged loss, assured Nigerians that the committee has resolved to ensure confidentiality of all information that will be provided by whistleblowers, as well as recovery of the revenue. A member of the committee, Ganiyu Johnson, explained that as part of efforts to revive the various refineries in the country, the House Committee on the State of Refineries visited some of the refineries and gave assurance of Port Harcourt and Warri refineries coming into full operation by first and last quarters of 2023.
There's a salient issue of a whistleblower in 2020 who raised allegations that certain individuals at the time in government and some allegedly still serving conspired to sell 48 million barrels of Nigeria's crude, which resulted in the country's loss of over $2.4 billion. So it is important to point out the fact that our job, in line with our constitutional mandate in Section 88 and 89, is to investigate. It was only brought to the fore by a whistleblower towards the end of 2020, and remember that was the COVID period. And in the time between when that allegation came up and now, there has also been the issue of trying to identify the whistleblowers, trying to determine whether or not there was even a reason to commence this investigation. Like I told you earlier, these are individuals who have been expressing fear. So of course, they were a little skeptical about providing information until they saw that the House was serious about proceeding with the investigation, that they started reaching out. So that is what informed. So the fact that they occurred in 2015 and we're only having this investigation now is due to the fact that the issue itself only came to the fore towards the end of 2020, and we had to ensure engagement with the involved individuals and to ascertain their identities, because we cannot be involved in spurious investigations.
We'll take a break here, but still to come. Nigeria's money supply hit all-time high of 51.8 trillion naira in November 2022, despite CBN's tight policy. Details of the story and more right after this break.
The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has fixed Monday, 12th December 2022 to Sunday, 22nd January 2023 as the dates for the collection of PVCs nationwide from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily, including Saturdays and Sundays. All registrants who are yet to collect their PVCs or requested for transfer of registration, as well as those who applied for replacement of lost or damaged PVCs, can now visit INEC local government offices where they intend to vote to collect their PVCs. Collection of PVCs will be further extended to ward level for those who are unable to collect theirs at local government offices from Friday 6th to Sunday 15th January 2023. Thereafter, the exercise will be reverted to the local government offices of the INEC until Sunday 22nd January 2023. Remember, only those with PVC can vote on election day. Collect your PVC now to vote. It is your duty. This message is brought to you by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), making your votes count, consolidating our democracy.
Welcome back. Now here is a recap of some of our top stories tonight. The Lagos State Attorney General Moyosore Onigbanjo has filed a one-count charge of unlawful killing against Durambi Vandi, an assistant superintendent of police, for the murder of a Lagos lawyer, Bolanle Rahim. The Chief Magistrate of the Yaba Magistrate Court, Adiola Olatunbosun, granted the application and ordered that the case file be duplicated and sent to Babajide Martins, Director of Public Prosecution in Lagos, for legal advice. We also told you that some civil society organizations have condemned the budgetary allocations of 30.1 billion naira for severance packages and inauguration of the 10th Assembly. The National Assembly had on Wednesday increased the 2023 budget proposal from 20.51 trillion naira to 21.82 trillion naira and passed it, indicating an increase of over 1.3 trillion naira against the 20.5 trillion naira proposed by President Muhammadu Buhari in October. Well, in case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, you can catch us on Limex World TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online. Indonesia has removed all remaining measures to control the spread of COVID-19 effective immediately since most of the country's population already has antibodies against the disease, President Joko Widodo has said. The president also urged Indonesians to remain vigilant against the virus, including wearing a face mask indoors and when in a crowd. According to Health Ministry, nearly 75% of Indonesians have received 2 vaccine shots and about 68.5 million have had at least 1 booster injection. The EU's disease agency has said the screening of travelers from China for COVID-19 would be unjustified. On Thursday, Italy urged the rest of the EU to follow its lead and ensure Chinese arrivals were tested and quarantined if necessary. The US, Japan, Taiwan and India also recently announced mandatory testing as China deals with a COVID-19 surge. But the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control said that a surge was not expected to impact the EU. We'll take a breather now and return with more stories to stay with us.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places, the Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Hello? Yeah, I found your wallet in front of a supermarket. Meet me at Apple Junction. Yes, I'll be waiting for you.
Now we find out. 2 of us.
Thank you very much, officer. You know, it's surprising that men like you still exist in the police force.
Yes, so...
Oh, yes.
This is just a token of my appreciation.
Oh, no. You don't need to do this. We are only doing our job.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
You're welcome.
Now I know police is really my friend.
Yes.
Friend. Hey. Which came up with this one? I don't understand.
You know your problem. You are greedy. I'm a policeman who is doing his job. All forms of corruption in the force. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back. Let's now join Mary Kanu for more stories and business. Over to you, Mary. Thank you, Folashade. Hello and welcome to Business News. Latest data released by the Central Bank of Nigeria indicates that Nigeria's money supply has surged to an all-time high of 51.8 trillion naira in November 2022, resulting in a 7.97 trillion naira increase year to date. The increase in the country's broad money supply is despite measures by the Apex Bank to mop up excess liquidity by adopting a hawkish monetary policy stance. Specifically, the CBN adjusted the MPR from 11.5%, which it adopted in September 2020, to 16.5% in its last committee meeting in a bid to tackle the rise in inflation rate and persistent depreciation of the exchange rate. It may have taken 15 years of litigation, but 3 Nigerian farmers and the villagers in Niger Delta may finally receive the compensation for damages incurred by Shell Nigeria. This comes as Shell, an international energy company, has agreed to pay €15 million compensation to the plaintiffs. Farmers, with the help of the Friends of the Earth, Netherlands, and 2 Nigerian lawyers, Chima Williams and Chana Samkalden, had in 2007 initiated legal proceedings in Hague for oil pollution in Goy, Oruma, and Ikot Adaudo. A Dutch court in 2021 ordered the international company to pay the claimants a compensation over the oil spills that took place in the villages between 2004 and 2007. Well, to speak more on this development, Somi Oranti, oil and gas expert, joins me now. Thank you very much for joining us. How significant would you say is Shell's agreement to pay compensation of the €5 million to the activism against oil spills and pollution in the Niger Delta?
Yes, it is. First of all, thank you for having me. I think it's a good development. At least it goes to show that there should be some level of accountability in terms of the way Shell and the rest of the oil companies treat us, the Niger Deltans.
Well, now some would say it took, can you hear me? Some will say it took too long for justice to be served. I mean, 15 years in court is no joke, but what means can be explored to ensure that other impacted communities in the Niger Delta and elsewhere can also be duly compensated?
Yes, you see, what has happened is just a tip of the iceberg, less than a tip of the iceberg, because the level and degree of devastation that the people of Niger Delta have had to go through following the exploitation and the exploration of oil in Niger Delta is so devastating, it's so humongous that what they have done, the judgment, though it's good that it has come, to this extent, but we need to, there's so much more to be done. Reparations upon reparations upon reparations, it has to be made to the people of Niger Delta because it's not a small issue. The people cannot fish, they cannot farm, they cannot do anything, the basic things that people do in communities. And as it is terrible that the Nigerian government have connived the oil companies, major oil companies, to deal so shabbily with the people of Niger Delta. And it is not something that any ear should hear and feel happy for the state, of affairs in Niger Delta. But it's good that Shell, have agreed to pay 15 million euros to the people of Ogoni land, some of those communities and the fishermen. But how much can they pay? How much can they to bring back to clean up the place? And again, you have to think of how are they going to share this money? What can even do? Just a peanut compared to what damage they have done to our environment.
All right, now, Somi Oranti, oil and gas expert, thank you for your time and your contribution. We'll take a break now and return with Stock Market Review. To stay with us. A remarkable close to the year 2022 for the NGX as the market sustained the Santa Claus rally and is bowing out in the positive territory. The all-share index rose to 1.89% and climbed also to the 51,000 level. Now, the upturn was impacted by gains recorded in medium and large capitalized stocks, amongst which Caverton and Presco. Market sentiment was also impacted and ends positive with 21 gainers against 17 losers. Now, despite the market hit with tales of inflation, Russia-Ukraine war, as well as other factors, the last trading day for the year shows 890 million volume of shares were traded in 3,566 deals. Now, a cheering way to close the year for investors as they hope this positive sentiment is carried over into the new year. Let's look now at some select global stocks. US and UK stocks edged lower as defensive sectors such as healthcare and consumer staples saw the market tumble into losses to close the year down at 0.81% and 0.86%. That's the stock market report for 2022. See you next year. Folashade, back to you.
Well, many thanks, Mary, for that update. And just as you've said, we hope that this positive trend goes into the year 2023. Thank you again, Mary. Now, the foreign scene, a court in military-ruled Myanmar has found the country's toppled leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, guilty of corruption charges, sentencing her to 7 years in prison in the last of a string of criminal cases. The country's former democratically elected leader has been under house arrest since a military ousted her government in a coup in February 2021. Aung San Suu Kyi, aged 77, has now been convicted on every charge leveled against her, ranging from corruption to illegally possessing walkie-talkies and flouting COVID-19 restrictions. And now in sports, the burial of the late football legend Pele has been set for Monday and Tuesday. While the wake will be held on Monday, his body will be laid to rest on Tuesday at his Santos home, where he enchanted the world according to his former club. Tributes have continued to flow in for the only man to win the World Cup 3 times, first as a 17-year-old in 1958, again in Chile 4 years later, and then the iconic third win in Mexico in 1970. And that's the size of our news bulletin. Many thanks for watching. I am Folashade Ogurinde. Bye for now.